Hello friends and welcome back. This week I'm going to show you how to turn a photograph into a line drawing, and if you want, even add some colour back to it. Let's jump into Photoshop. So I've got this image of these New Forest ponies, completely unedited, not great photograph, but let's just play around with it. So I've duplicated it 3 times. So Command or Control J to duplicate your layer. I'm just going to grab the top layer. Now I need to get rid of the colour. So because I've duplicated it, so I know I've got backup copies, let's just desaturate that layer, which means we have destructively edited it. It's permanently changed to black and white, but that's okay because we've got 2 backups here. So then let's invert. So Command or Control I to invert the layer. And then I'm going to grab my Color Dodge blend mode. Right click, convert to Smart Object. So we can go back in and make some changes if we want to. Filter, blur, Gaussian blur. And then I am going to just tinker about with my lines. Now, the reason that you're seeing this colour through is because it's blending this top layer that we're now blurring with the layer below, which still has colour on it. So this is okay. We can come back in and tweak this in a moment because we've made it a smart object. So what I'm looking for is for lines. So let's just zoom in a tiny bit. So I'm not looking for massive detail, but I'm looking for it to have picked up the lines around the edges of our subject. So let's say OK, and then grab a black and white adjustment layer just so that we've now got black and white image rather than all that funny colour. One thing you can do if you put a black and white adjustment layer on top is actually use and just tweak the tones to give that a bit more of the effect that you might want. So I'm going to say, so that's what it looked like before, and this is what it looks like with the black and white adjustment layer on it. So if I really wanted a bit more detail in this pony, it might be that we need to go back in to the filter. Let's do that. Let's close up this properties box and come back into the Gaussian blur and just see if we make any difference by changing our blend mode. So the trouble is, if I start doing that, then obviously that's not going to be looking good at all. We could put more detail in that way, but let's not do that. Let's leave that down there. So I think this is probably a good example of why it would have been better to have used the black and white adjustment layer on the original image. So do you know what? Let's just delete this. So I'm going to delete my black and white adjustment layer so I don't confuse you. Let's duplicate our original again. I'm going to call this the blend layer so we know which one it is. And this time, let us put a black and white adjustment layer on it. So I'm going to clip it. This is your little clipping box. So I've now pinned this to the layer below. And I kind of want a bit more texture in this little pony's coat so that when we go in and blur, it's going to find some lines. So let's just see if we can do that. It might be that we need to put a levels adjustment on there. Do you know, that might be a better idea. Let me try that. Let me follow along with me because you can then see some of the problems you might stumble upon and how you could start to think your way out of it. Because it's all very well people showing you quick techniques. Let's just invert this, blend, color dodge, showing you techniques, but that technique might work for that image, but you can very quickly find yourself in trouble. As you can see with this, we want some detail back here. So this is giving me a better crack at it now. So I just want some more detail in this pony's coat. Let's say OK. Come out. OK. So because this black and white adjustment layer is clipped to the layer below, it's not going to affect all the layers. So I'm going to grab another one. Now this is going to make all those layers black and white. As you can see, we still haven't got quite as much detail in that pony's coat, but without this layer on top, it is there. So let me see if I can just tweak this a little bit, or it might be that we need to use a levels adjustment to get that detail back. So let's try doing that instead. Come above here, grab ourselves a levels. because the only thing I'm really looking at the moment is this coat. I just want more detail back. So let's just move these adjustment sliders down on this levels adjustment, and I'm ignoring everything in the image other than that pony's coat. I just want some detail back there. So of course it's giving too much detail to everything else, but that's okay because we have got a filter mask. So I've just pulled these sliders almost down to the right hand side, but no problem. Right, sitting on my levels adjustment, and I'm going to go Shift Delete, and that gives me my fill box, and I'm going to say fill with black, which is then covering up the whole of the adjustment we've just made. So now grab your brush, V for the brush tool, X to change your colours. If you've got black and white here and it's showing black, we want white, so I hit X to toggle between the two. And if, by the way, you've got a colour in here and you want it back to black and white, you either click this little icon here, or if you hit D on your keyboard, it will give you back your black and white. So with the white selected, I'm now just going to click over this pony, and there you go. I've got some detail back. And obviously I can use my opacity and flow to make that stronger or lighter, just getting it how I want it. So just put a bit of detail back in there. And maybe I'll do a bit on this other pony as well, because they are our main subject. So the levels adjustment is what got us out of trouble. So I think this needs to be a bit stronger. So I'm going to grab myself a curves adjustment, and I'm grabbing curves this time rather than levels, just because you have a little bit more control with curves. Let's just bring the image slightly to the left so that we can see what we're doing. Now, again, I'm sort of fixated a little bit on this pony over here, but I want the whole thing to be looking a bit darker. So let's just see what we can do to darken up the whole image, just give it a bit more of a textury effect. Just moving my slider around. I've got my finger on my left mouse and I'm just dragging that slider across, and you can see you can just make a huge amount of difference with tiny little movement. Just looking for some sort of middle of the road place where I've got enough detail back in the little dark pony on the left without making everything else look too heavy. So I think that's probably about right just there. So let's just see. So that was before and that's after. It's just giving it a bit more detail. Let's zoom in. So as you can see, kind of looking much more like a drawing now. Now, what about, you're kind of liking it, you've got your drawing, but you're thinking you kind of like some of that original colour back. So what I would do is grab the duplicate we've got at the bottom, drag it up to the top, making sure it goes right up to the top above all of the other layers. Right, so it's already got a fill down to 49, so let's pull that up. So here is the original image, the duplicate, normal blend mode, opacity and fill at 100%. The first thing I'd do is let's just pull down our fill. So that kind of gives us a half painterly effect. But the other thing that you can do is just right click, convert to smart object, and let's go filter, blur, Gaussian blur. And then I would use my Gaussian blur just to soften out that colour. In fact, you can see I've made a mistake here that I want to show you. The reason you're seeing the checkerboard here on the Gaussian blur is because when I made this a smart object, I'd already got my fill down to 49%. So what it's done is it said that is normal. So I'm going to preserve the image like that. So I don't want that. You can see it's already got, let me see if I can, no, I can't zoom in on my layers panel, but I don't want it saying that's the normal image. So I'm going to say Command Z to step back. So we've got ourselves back. It's turned off the smart object. Let's turn the fill back up to 100%. Right click now and convert to smart object. And so now we haven't got that checkerboard effect. And if we turned their fill down to where we wanted it at 61%, we still have our fully intact image, but it's now being preserved. I hope that makes sense. Okay, let's get back to this Gaussian blur. And I am going to just, we'll see what happens when I turn that right up. So again, I don't think it's perfect. Another probably levels adjustment on, and then I'd be looking at this little darker pony and thinking, okay, so what do I like? If I I've tried to drag that all the way down to the other end, and that's probably where I like it. We could take some white out completely. So I'm ignoring everything else on this image. The only thing I'm looking at right now is this little black pony's face. So with this levels adjustment, Shift, Delete, fill it with black, please. White brush, beef the brush tool. I've got white selected, and then I'm just going to tap in that adjustment where I want it. Don't want it there, made a mistake. X to get rid of that, just to paint the black back in. White, see me toggling backwards and forwards between the white and the black. If you look at my panel over here, moving across, and I'm painting back in the levels adjustment that is hidden under that black mask. So I would then come over here, and don't forget, you can just do this over and over again. You could do a levels adjustment or any adjustment for every single part of the image using your masks and a brush to paint back in what you do or don't want. So I think that if this is what you're looking for, is probably more like it. Let's get rid of this box so we can see. So yeah, so without the levels adjustment that I just did, with it, that's much better. So that's without the colour, and that's with the colour. So all we've done to create colour is drag a copy of the original image back up to the top and then added a Gaussian blur to it. And I've dropped the fill down to 61%. So there's a few interesting little techniques there for you. So that's a quick way to turn your photograph into a drawing. And if you want to add the colour back in, or otherwise just leave it as it is. And don't forget, of course, you could always add a gradient map over the top, or even grab yourself a texture and put that over the top and use your blend modes to blend it back in. Okay, that's it for this week. Hope you enjoy that. I'll see you next week for another tip. Bye for now.